Hello, and welcome back to the podcast where you are invited for lighthearted conversations about things that matter as you seek to live your most meaningful, beautiful, and joyful life. I'm your host, Dr. Edie Wadsworth, and I hope you enjoy your stay here at the House of Joy. Hi, dear ones. Welcome back to the podcast. This is episode 225. I can hardly believe that I'm just talking about this on the podcast, y'all, because this topic for today is the cornerstone of the work I do in the world. And what's the topic? I'm glad you asked. We're talking all about becoming your true self. So this is going to be so fun. I do want to let you know though, because today is the last, well, it's not actually the last day to join us. You could join us tomorrow, depending on when you're listening to this. But if you want help with becoming more of your true self, you need to join my workshop called Design Your Life, Live Your Purpose. We start tomorrow, Wednesday, September 25th. I can hardly wait. 3-day, amazing, jam-packed, fun-filled workshop that you do not want to miss for the price of a Starbucks. Or if you upgrade, and I forgot to bring my planner down. If you upgrade, you get our new quarterly planner. It's so beautiful, y'all. There are 99 days left in the year as of today. Let's decide together that we're going to make them the best 99 days we have ever experienced. That is like literally always my goal. How can I keep making this life more meaningful, more purposeful, more rich, filled with more love, more joy? Let's do that over the next 90 days. So if you haven't joined us yet, you have a little more time, but not much. Go to ediewadsworthcoaching.com/purpose. Get yourself joined, signed up for the workshop. We are closing this time. A lot of times we'll leave our workshops open. We're closing this on Thursday, you guys. That's the last chance to get the planner. That's the last chance to join us for the workshop. So make sure you get signed up. We start the first live call tomorrow. We are going to be talking about true self in the workshop. And I wanted to give you a little bit of, teaching on this and how I think about this. So when I first started learning about coaching tools, I was like, man, this is so much like scripture. Like, this is so much like what I feel like good theology is. And I eventually realized, like, oh, what coaching is trying to do is basically what we're trying to do as believers. We have this old man, this ego that most of us operate from. And we're going to talk about the traits of the old man, the ego, whatever you want to call it, false self. And as believers redeemed by Christ, we now have Christ living in us. So we have the new man, the true self, that we can operate from. And really, I think the process of your life is to become more and more the true man, more and more living as Christ would live, letting his life empower us to live and show up the way we actually want to show up in life. I remember when I first became a Lutheran and I was like, oh, I don't really get this whole Lent thing because it's kind of like, it seems like this paradox. We already are redeemed, but yet during Lent, we're kind of giving up things or we're kind of exercising our spiritual disciplines. And this pastor told me, he said, yeah, but you're doing it from the place of someone already redeemed, somebody already God's child. It's like, and C.S. Lewis even said something similar to this, that growing in the faith is like being in a family. You get born into a family, but you have to learn what it's like to be in that family. You have to learn what it's like to be a Wadsworth. You have to learn the disciplines and the rituals and the, all the little quirks of being in the family. And being a redeemed believer is a lot like that. And really, my whole entire program, you guys, is designed to help you go from living from so much of your false self, your old man, to living more as your true self, more as the one redeemed by Christ. And that process is a process for all of us. And any tools that we can use to help us do that, I am all for it. And I have really noticed in my own life that as I'm more and more aware of it, it has made a huge difference. So I'm going to talk about traits of the false self, traits of the true self, even emotions of the true and false self. But I do want to make this caveat. So we talk about this a lot in Life Mentoring School, my coaching program. I think sometimes we think we're trying to do that so that we can be acceptable to God, loved by God. No, 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 no. He loves you right where you are in all your false self insecurity and resentment and anger and all of your bad habits. He meets us right where we are. He loves us right where we are. He loves us, and his love is what transforms us. So, we don't clean ourselves up and live as our true selves so that we're acceptable to him. He makes us acceptable because he loves us. So I want to make that caveat because we're not doing this from a place of striving. We're not doing this from a place of trying to get, good enough to earn his love. Nothing like that at all. It's kind of like, and I've used this analogy before. A lot of people will say to me, well, I need to get in shape before I go to CrossFit. I'm like, no, you go to CrossFit to get in shape. That is the tool. And so it's a similar thing, but what a joy it is to learn how to live more from our true selves, more from who God actually created us to be. And one of I think maybe the defining factor of this is that the false self, the ego, operates from fear. The true self operates from love. So very often asking myself, oh, am I motivated here by fear or am I motivated by love? And I find this so often, especially in my parenting lately. Am I parenting this way from fear? Am I living in a state of fear? Oh, I better do this or this. Or am I doing this from more of it's like whether you're playing defense or on offense. And true self and learning to live as your true self, learning to live really your whole life from this place that's centered in love because God loves us. He infuses us with his spirit, and now we can love the way he loves. And so, are we operating from that, or are we operating from the ego, from the false self? So, let me just describe some other traits to sort of help us get our minds around this. When I think of true self traits, I think of, first of all, this is how God designed us to live. So when we live this way, according to these traits, these principles, this is like the way he designed it. Things go well for us when we do this. When we operate from the false self, from the ego, from the natural man, things don't go as well for us. So it's really, really important for us to prioritize, like, who am I becoming? Am I becoming more of my true self? Am I bringing more of heaven to earth? Am I living more as Christ's spirit in me, or not? True self is open and vulnerable, willing to be known. And the first person that you're willing to be known to is you're willing to be known by God. You're willing for him to search your heart. You're willing for him to know you. You're willing for him to convict you. You open yourself up with that vulnerability with God, with yourself, and with other people. And it's so, this part is really interesting to me because I do think this is one of the areas that I have grown, I think, the most in, because I grew up in a environment where I was always wanting to hide who I was, hide where I was from, hide my circumstances. And when I released my book, All the Pretty Things, in 2016, it was like literally the end of the hiding. Like, okay, this is who I am. This is how I grew up. It's like an opening, willing for God to search our hearts, but also willing for ourselves to be honest with ourselves. This is why coaching has been so powerful to me. Willing to know myself with love and compassion, just as God knows me with love and compassion, so that I can make true change. The true self is really resilient. So I've been through lots of periods of my time where I wasn't very resilient, but I do believe that as we live more and more as our true selves, we become so much more resilient. We become way less swayed by what other people think because we become really sure who we are in Christ. We become way less people pleasers because we realize, like, oh, I'm doing that as a way to manipulate people, to get them to think a certain way about me. And when I'm ready to be vulnerable and open and true and honest, it makes us so more resilient. True self is strong and resilient. And I really believe this extends into, as much as we can, as much as we're able, to make ourselves physically strong, emotionally strong, mentally strong. Being willing to look at our lives honestly is a huge way to do that. Becoming self aware. True self is really self aware. not self-conscious. False self is often self-conscious, always worried about what other people think. Are they going to like this? Are they going to approve of this? Are they going to judge me? It's not that. It's self-aware. It's like, again, a deeper form of that willingness to be known. True self operates from abundance. True self believes that all will be well. No matter what happens, God has us. An abundance, the way we look at everything, that obviously there's room for everyone. There's plenty to go around. There's plenty of love and there's plenty of compassion. There's plenty, plenty, plenty of everything. That attitude of abundance, whereas the false self is often operating from scarcity. There's not enough. I'm not enough. They're not enough. This abundance thing extends to way past, I really even rarely think about it in terms of money because it's way more than that. It's sort of, do you have an abundant mindset about the people in your life? Do you have an abundant mindset about your own life? Do you see yourself as God sees you? Do you know how loved you are and cherished you are and valued you are? Because if you can know that really, then you can extend that to other people. And then you have this generous, abundant way of looking at other people. Um, True self operates from forgiveness, whereas false self is often holding back forgiveness, feeling resentful, feeling bitter. So, are we operating from this place of forgiveness or are we holding on to grudges? And listen, it doesn't take much for you to look at what you've been forgiven of in your own life for you to be able to extend that to other people. So, do we have a spirit of forgiveness? Again, we talked about love. Are we operating from a place of love or are we operating from a place of indifference? Um, Most of you know that I spent years in the medical field. And one of the things that I have noticed over the years as antidepressant medications have become more common is that a really common side effect in women is that they make women indifferent, meaning they kind of give us apathy, make us, put us in this place of not really caring. And so learning to be self-aware, if you need to take those medications for a time, I think that is fine. But also asking yourself, what could I do for myself to make myself more resilient mentally, emotionally? What could I do for myself so that I start to notice if I'm getting indifferent, so that I start to notice the way that I'm treating people? And I think that this is one of those things, this indifference, that not a very it's just not a very gracious way of seeing the world. And I think it can creep in this sort of bitterness, indifference. Even sometimes, I notice this in women in middle age where they kind of get to this place where they almost have a mean streak. I remember when my mom was going through menopause, I was like, "Oh, she's kind of spicy. She's got a little bit of spice now." I think it's fine to find your spice, you guys, but let's not get to the point where we're indifferent or where we're just downright mean. Let's open our hearts, operate from this place of love and compassion. That's our true self. True self is often protecting others. True self takes such good care of herself that she's often protecting others, and false self is often protecting herself. So if you find yourself a lot of the time getting defensive, wanting to protect yourself, wanting to, taking offense or getting triggered by things, you have to ask yourself, oh, have I not taken good enough care of myself? Have I not accepted God's love and let Him take care of me so that I am now feeling like I have to, protect myself, get defensive, get triggered? True self is often so um, taken care of herself in the best of ways that she now can reach out and take care of others and protect others. True self is ready to serve others, whereas false self is often serving self. I know that, in lots of circles, the word serve isn't good. I love this word, you guys. I love this word because we were created to serve. And I feel like we're living so much more of our purpose. We have so much meaning in our lives when we're serving others. Now, can women take this to a level that's not healthy? Yes, because you do have to take care of yourself. You have to take care of yourself to be able to take care of other people. But I love that God created us to serve, and this is definitely a sign of true self. And I'll finish with this one. True self is full of joy. One of my favorite coaches gave this analogy of joy is like the sun in the sky. It's always there. Sometimes there are clouds in the way. Sometimes we are not experiencing it, but it's always there. I believe that we were created for joy. We were created for that all is well. It's sort of a stance of faith, really, that we believe down deep that no matter what is happening to us externally, we believe that all is well. And we can have this sort of deep, abiding peace and joy no matter what life throws at us. And the opposite of that, where we don't think all is well, it's kind of a lack of faith, it's a lack of believing that, it's sort of this low level misery in life. And I do believe that as we seek more to live as our true selves, we will just experience so much more joy in life. Life will feel to us so much more fulfilling, so much richer when we learn to live more as our true self. So, when you think about you, let me ask you this. What percentage of time do you feel like you live as your true self? How much of your day do you spend operating from this place of love, joy, gratitude, forgiveness? All of these amazing qualities of living as our true self: open, self aware, resilient, abundant, generous, compassionate. And this shift from false self to true self, I mean, for most of us, this is going to take a lifetime, but I want to bring heaven to earth as fast as I can. I want to figure out, like, okay, what is still in my way of living like this? What conditions have I put on it? Well, I would live more from this place of love if, well, I would do it if, and we're on the if often involves other people. If she did this, if he did this, if they did this. Let me just tell you something, and I'll leave you with this. You living as your true self has nothing to do with anything else and everything to do with you. You have God's spirit in you. You have everything you need. Ask yourself, what is holding me back from doing it? What am I allowing to get in the way of me operating from this amazing place of Christ in me, this amazing place of my true self? Okay, I hope you have a great rest of your day. And if you have not joined us in the workshop yet, please go do so. edwadsworthcoaching.com/purpose. And I will see you at the workshop. All right. All my love.